What is the sound of one hand clapping? It's a famous Zen koan. People have been sitting with it for centuries. And the point is not to find a clever answer. The point is to notice that the question itself is broken. The concept of sound simply does not apply. Sound requires two things colliding. One hand clapping is not a sound problem. It's a category error. And here's the strange thing. In the modern world, we are surrounded by questions just like this. Questions that look deep. Questions that look sophisticated. Questions that generate entire academic industries. But when you look closely, they're not deep. They're confused. Welcome to Dimensions. I'm Bill. I'll be your host for today's episode. Today I want to talk about a simple idea that sits at the foundation of dimensional rendering theory. It's not technical, it's not mystical, and it's not complicated, but it changes how a lot of deep problems suddenly look very small. Here it is. Not all problems are meant to be solved. Some are meant to be dissolved. We live in a culture that worships problem solving. If there's a question, we assume there must be an answer. If there's a mystery, we assume it must be cracked. If something doesn't make sense, we assume we just need better tools, better math, better experiments, better theories. But that habit hides a quieter mistake. Some questions are not hard. They're malformed. They're like asking what's north of the North Pole, or what color Tuesday is, or what happened before time. They look like questions. Grammatically, they are questions. But conceptually, they don't point to anything coherent. And once you see that, you don't answer them. You drop them. Now, here's where this gets uncomfortable. Some of the most famous, deep problems in Western philosophy and science fall into exactly this category. Take the most famous one of all, the so-called hard problem of consciousness. How does matter produce mind? How does the physical brain generate experience? How does objective stuff turn into subjective awareness? This is treated as one of the greatest mysteries in human thought. From the perspective of dimensional rendering theory, it isn't. It's a broken question. It's like asking whether the head side of a coin produces the tail side. Mind and matter are not separate things that must cause each other. They are two aspects of the same act of rendering. They appear together or not at all. Asking which one causes the other is like asking whether the left side of a mountain causes the right side. It's not profound. It's silly. In Zen, koans are used to short-circuit the mind's habit of forcing answers under the wrong kind of question. In Western thought, we often do the opposite. We take questions that should be abandoned, and we build entire careers trying to answer them. And the more sophisticated the chase becomes, the more convinced we are that we're making progress. The modern intellectual world inherits a whole architecture of thought, categories, metaphors, assumptions, that are rarely questioned at the foundation. Even when Eastern ideas are discussed, they're filtered through Western metaphysics, through Greek logic, through substance, causation, and reductionist thinking. So we inherit the category errors first, and then we spend centuries refining them. Dimensional rendering theory begins with a simpler move. It asks, what kinds of questions even make sense inside a rendered world? And what kinds of questions are being smuggled upstream to where the concepts no longer apply? For example, we don't seriously ask what happened before time. Why? Because before is a temporal concept. It only works inside time. Asking what came before time is like asking what's north of north. And yet in cosmology, people ask this all the time and get very serious answers involving singularities, infinities, and mathematical contortions. From a DRT perspective, that's not depth. That's a category error wearing a lab coat. The same mistake appears in our thinking about consciousness. We take concepts that only make sense inside the rendered slice, matter, causation, mechanisms, production, and try to use them to explain the slice itself. That's like trying to use the rules of chess to explain where the board came from. Within DRT, the world we experience is a rendered dimensional slice. Space, time, objects, causation, identity, these are not the substrate. They are how the substrate becomes intelligible. They are part of the interface. And consciousness is not something added on top. Consciousness is what rendering looks like from the inside. It's the experiential aspect of rendering. Matter and experience are two faces of the same coin. One is rendering seen as structure, the other is rendering seen as presence. Neither produces the other. They arise together or not at all. So when someone asks, how does matter create consciousness? The right response is not to get smarter. The right response is to notice that the question is malformed. It's like asking how the map produces the territory, or how the image in a mirror generates the mirror. Now here's the deeper attachment we rarely question. We want reality to explain itself in the terms we already have. We assume that if we push hard enough, the universe will eventually confess in our language. But that's not how interfaces work. Your screen doesn't show you electricity, it shows you icons. The mistake is not using icons. The mistake is thinking the icons are the electricity. Dimensional rendering theory is not a spiritual teaching. It's not self-help. It's not here to give you better experiences. It's an austere ontological framework. It's not here to comfort you. It's here to be correct. And yes, that can be unsettling, because many cherished questions turn out not to be deep truths, but deep habits. Many sacred mysteries turn out to be grammar mistakes. But here's the quiet relief. Truth is not cruel. Truth is economical. It's exhausting to keep trying to solve problems that were never real in the first place. So let's return to the beginning. What is the sound of one hand clapping? There is no answer. Not because it's mysterious, but because the concept of sound does not apply. In the same way, asking whether matter produces mind, or mind produces matter, is a question where the concepts don't apply. They are two aspects of the same rendering. And once you see that, an enormous amount of philosophical fog just disappears, not solved or resolved, but dissolved. This is why dimensional rendering theory is dense, precise, and rigorous. But it begins with a very simple discipline. Stop trying to answer questions that don't make sense. Start asking what makes sense possible. And once you do that, many of the great unsolvable problems of Western thought turn out to be optional. They were never walls. They were knots. And knots don't need to be smashed through. They need to be untied, or sometimes simply dropped. So here's the takeaway. Not all problems are to be resolved. Some are to be dissolved, and the ones that dissolve are usually the ones that have been wasting our time the longest. If you found this clarifying or unsettling, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. This has been Dimensions. Until next time, my name is Bill.